Design Notes is a show from Google Design about creative work and what it teaches us. I'm your host, Liam Spradlin. Each episode, I talk with people from unique creative fields to discover what inspires and unites us in our practice.
I try to infuse that stuff intentionally with a lot of my music, but what people get out of it, it must just happen naturally. I think that is just all I am, so what I create must be filled with that.
In this episode, I spoke with Conor Grebel, the animator, 3D designer, and musician behind Bedtimes, exploring how Conor's work is directly shaped by his experiences. The first half of our conversation traces Conor's journey to creative work, and we explore how his trauma, panic attack disorder, and eventually a deeper understanding of our relationship with death led him to discover the ingredients that allowed him to create soothing work.
Because they're not just sounds I enjoy, they're sounds that save my life. They're not just visuals I enjoy, they're visuals that save my life. And I think about them all the time because not only have they literally gotten me out of like the grips of death, I've been given a gift as a result of that. I love that about my life.
My conversation with Conor has had a lasting impact on me, and I hope that in the same way that Conor's work conveys something intangible to those who encounter it, discussing these topics on the show will highlight the importance and the presence of our own experiences and vulnerabilities in our work. Let's get started. Conor, welcome to Design Notes.
Oh, thank you.
To start out with, I want to know about the motivation and the journey that has brought you to your current work and how that has influenced the sort of things that you're making.
Yeah, that's a bit of a story. That's okay. Yeah?
Yeah, tell it.
I wasn't always going to be an artist. That wasn't always going to happen. I was born and raised in Southern California, and then my parents moved me when I was 10 years old to Wisconsin, which is not inherently a bad thing, but I think the place we went heavily affected my journey a little bit. We moved to Wisconsin in a place that individuality and creativity was not respected at all. At first, I wanted to be an entomologist, actually, and a lot of that still kind of exists in me. I'm really, really interested in insects. So I wanted to be an entomologist, and then when I got into understanding that I was terrible at studying, that died. I always loved drawing. I always wanted to be an artist, but going to a high school where being a creative, unique person was grounds to, like, beat you up, and then my high school didn't have an arts program at all. My arts program was just, like, drawing instead of taking notes. So after that, all hopes of wanting to be an artist, all confidence in that was completely gone. So I graduated high school with like a D average, didn't have plans to go to college, absolutely did not think I could be an artist, and I traveled a bit. And went to Japan, and I was decent at speaking Japanese. I would categorize this part of my life as like the times in which I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I didn't have any confidence, kind of like whatever roles that society put out there, like you need to go to college, you need to do this, you need to work in business or something. Because I had no definition of myself, I just assumed that stuff. So like I went to Japan, I thought, oh, I can speak Japanese, that means I can go to college now. And that meant I was doing something right with my life. So I decided to get into school with the help of my high school teachers. And they had confidence in me that I did not. So they wrote some recommendation letters for me, and they got me into UW-Milwaukee through a second chance program, which means that for my first year of school, I had to take special classes. I mean, it was pretty cool because everyone that was in that class really appreciated being in college. So I made some really good friends there. And everyone there was not supposed to go to college, but they've been given a chance to do it. They had to take these special courses to like acclimate themselves to getting good grades and being a good student again or something. But it was a really cool class, actually. It was really awesome. I, at all points in my life, don't relate to anyone of my generation. When I was in high school, I hated high schoolers. When I was in college, I fucking hated college kids. I never went to parties. And I definitely don't like people my age right now. Anyways, this is all leading towards me hitting rock bottom and then giving up on listening to what anyone else tells me to do and then deciding to be an artist. That's leading towards that. But this is like me ignorantly walking towards that bottom. So studied Japanese language. I think I was pretty good at it. I was able to pass into a higher level. Transferred to UW-Madison, which is a really good college and like the second in the nation for learning Japanese. And I went as hard as I could in the wrong direction. This is me going as hard as I can in the wrong direction with not any concept of what I'm going to do with my life later. I'm like, oh, I'm studying Japanese because I can do it. It's the only thing I know how to do well. So I graduated with a Japanese language degree in 6 years. It took 6 years because I was paying for college and working and a terrible fucking student. I'm a bad student. I'm really bad at school. So I graduated, And this is key in explaining why I make the art I make now and what informs the decisions I make and why I even want to be an artist. The key is that in college, of course, I was very depressed, and I didn't know it at that time, but one of the most driving forces in my life has been there since the beginning, and it started first rear its head in college, which is panic attack disorder. And in college, for the first time, it showed itself in a way that I didn't understand at that point yet. For some reason, every time I would ride the bus to school in the morning, if I could not sit on a seat, I couldn't breathe. And I was standing on the bus. It was every morning. It didn't make any sense. I didn't know how to diagnose it because it wasn't like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I, at random times, would feel nauseous and lightheaded. I'd be like, oh, something's wrong, like physically. It was like a mild panic attack before I knew what a panic attack was. And it would happen every morning. It didn't make any sense. As soon as someone got off a seat and I was able to sit down, it like washed away from me. As soon as I got off the bus, I could breathe again. I went to a doctor at the time that said, it sounds like you're having panic attacks. I'm like, because I'm riding the bus? I love riding the bus. Like, it's fun. And I just kind of let it go. Of course, this is at a time in college where things were very stressful. I was not meant to be in school, I think. And every step I took in that direction was like I was running out of a fuse. It was fuel in my body that was depleting, that's not replenishable. And I was just going in the wrong direction. And every step dug me deeper and deeper towards this black oil that was deep in my body that is panic attack disorder. So it started to rear its head. I was in a terrible living situation. I wasn't sleeping. And for the next year or so of college, I was in a relationship that was really good. For the most part, it was gone. But I decided to get a job in Japan. And I remember before I left for that job, I was fishing, and I loved fishing. And I remember thinking, I don't want to leave America. I love it here. I don't want to leave. Why am I doing this? But I kind of like just ignored that, and I went to Japan. This is a terrible decision. And for the longest time in my life, what happens in Japan was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I resented it, and I was angry. But, of course, now with perspective, it was a gift. But I go to Japan to work for the toy company, and I work in the creative toy department as a toy developer, which I thought was going to be creative and fun. I always wanted to have a creative position. And this is when I started to have daily panic attacks. I started smoking heavily again. I was drinking heavy again. My ribs were showing. The worst thing, though, was that I was brought there through this American HR employee in Japan. And I went through, for 3 months, the most severe abuse in my life, like mental abuse. This person made a point of making my life hell there in a way that would be illegal in the United States. But because in a lot of these companies, superiority, and seniority is something that you can't question. You just kind of have to do whatever they say. So this person could insult me on a daily basis. He could accuse me of things. He would intentionally create situations in which I had to apologize for stuff I didn't do just to embarrass me in front of my coworkers. He would make up stories and make me apologize for them. He would tell me I'm worthless and I don't deserve anything that I've gotten to this point on a daily basis. He'd walk into a room and he'd ignore everything I said, walk up to the person next to me, and then laugh at nothing they said, and then walk away. He'd call me into private meetings and accuse me of stealing company secrets. And he'd say, I know you stole some company secrets, and I know them. You have them on an SD card. It's like, I don't. It's like, well, you could have deleted them. I didn't do that. It's like, how do I know? That's illegal, and I have the power right now to send you home. He'd do stuff like take this book on like their corporate sustainable programs. It was a giant, thick, heavy, technical Japanese guideline book. And as I was leaving, he was like, translate this. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll start translating it, Come back to work the next day. Of course, it's like 6 o'clock. He gives it to me, and I didn't expect to work on it all that night. It's like, did you finish translating the book? I was like, no. Did you go home last night? Yeah. Why did you go home last night if you didn't translate that book? It's like, fuck, man. It's just like everything. It was killing me. It was like from the overt to the subtle, he was abusing me and he hated me. And halfway through, I broke. Everything he said to me was like, the first half, I was like, this is wrong. Something's wrong with this. And the second half, after he threatened me so many times, I just gave up. And my fight or flight broke. And all I had was nothing. Eventually, he fired me, went back home to America. And then for the next 2 years, the aftermath of that experience set in. And I wasn't sleeping. I was having daily severe panic attacks. I lost a lot of weight, became extremely agoraphobic, which is not necessarily the fear of leaving a house, although it ends up being that because it just means like the fear of encountering something that will trigger a panic attack. And at that point, it was everything. You know, a stressful time in my life, it was just riding the bus. But now it was like my leg tingling, standing in line, the temperature being a little bit off, being slightly out of breath, not knowing who touched my water glass before I touched it. And like all these crazy phobias became part of my life. It was very tough, and my body broke down. My chemistry changed. My thyroid got destroyed from all the stress. And ever since I came back from Japan, I haven't had a drop of alcohol. Don't even take ibuprofen anymore. My body just changed after that point. And this is where it's leading into it. Panic attack disorder became everything in my life. It was all I was battling with for 2 years, and I still am now. This is like 12 years ago, and I just got out of therapy last year because I have relapses and stuff. But my life became so hyper-focused on things that I would say that I became so sensitive that things that made me slightly uncomfortable before made me feel like I was going to die now. And things that were slightly relaxing before were like a drop of water in my tongue in hell kind of thing. You know, it was like they saved my life. Whereas I enjoyed sparkling water before, now sparkling water helped me get out of a panic attack. And it was basically saved my life. I didn't really enjoy crowds before. Now crowds made me feel like I was going to die. So I would say that this tool in my mind became hyper sharpened, and it was a gift. It was painful. The world became this landmine of things that I would step on, and then it would just send me into hours of panic attack. But it also became this beautiful catalog of things I knew that would make my life feel so much better. So things like the sound of a creak, or the sound of like two hollow pieces of wood knocking against each other, or the ways in which petals rotate around a flower, or one-point shadows on like a natural organic surface. Those things, I may have not noticed it too much before, but I loved them so much, they became like a driving force in my life. And so at rock bottom, I decided this is what I get for going so far in the wrong direction. This is what I get for not having confidence and not wanting to do what I want to do with my life. This is my punishment. And my reward is that I don't give a shit about that anymore. And now a core tenet in my life is I don't care what you want me to do. I'm going to do what I need to do to be happy, what I've always wanted to do. And I didn't give up. And I started learning the tools of animation and design. And I emerged literally from a basement 2 years later, and I decided to jump into the field. And now I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to make those sounds that I love. Because they're not just sounds I enjoy, they're sounds that save my life. They're not just visuals I enjoy, they're visuals that save my life. And I think about them all the time because not only have they literally gotten me out of the grips of death, and it makes me very emotional to think about how fucked up that is, but that is like, that's just what my life has turned into. But I've been given a gift as a result of that. And I love that about my life. I love my life. I actually do really love my life. And it's been given to me through all this suffering, I guess. But these things, these visuals that I make and these sounds that I make, they are directly related to things that I feel have saved my life. Because I've had panic attacks that were so severe and so long that I didn't think that I wanted to live anymore. That's happened many times. But I design with a lot of passion from that experience, I guess.
Yeah.
That was a long story. Sorry.
No, never apologize for that.
That's why I design what I design. That's why I make the music that I make.
Yeah.
That's where that stuff comes from.
I don't think I've ever gotten as complete an answer to that question.
Because I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I have to. It's not like a passing decision, just like, oh, it ended up like that.
You're creating these things out of a place of experiencing the things, again, that have helped save your life. But you're also giving those things to other people.
Yeah. And that's the best reward I've ever gotten on music that I've made. Like the It's a Trick song, my first album, which I made while seeing the most successful therapist. And I don't mean his personal success. I mean, like, the most success on my life was a therapist called Dr. Bob. And he changed a lot. He made me love myself again. And he redirected me towards how to think about my art properly. And I was working on this album and I was struggling, I was trying to make it. I still get lost, even though I have this big revelations. I still get lost. Like, I was trying to make music. I was trying to make it sound a certain way. I was trying to like, how am I going to make it big on SoundCloud? At that time I was thinking, how am I going to make it sound like these other artists who are really successful? And he's like, what are you doing? Stop that shit. What do you want to hear? Why are you trying to make a song? It's not a destination, it's a journey. He got really Alan Watson in me. He's like, why are you trying to make a song? Why don't you just like go play something you like and don't care if it turns out to be something that's a product or not. Just like go home, play some tones that sound good and don't have a goal with it. Just enjoy it. And I started thinking about that more. And everything he said, he would say, and I'm like, yeah, you're fucking wrong, And then I would go back and then during the week before I said, he's fucking right. He's always fucking right. He's an awesome guy. But I took that to heart, and then that became how I made this album. That's where all the sounds of my music came from that conversation where it's like, yes, I love hearing these things. I love it when it wants to be this way. It doesn't need to have this structure or fit into some category that I'm trying to make it fit to. Stop. You're still trying to fit a role that society has defined. So I changed that. I made that album. That album was made in a time where I was in a very low point in my panic attack disorder, and he was helping me through it, and the music was helping me through it. And I still get SoundCloud messages, like not as much anymore because this is like, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but I still get them like once every few months where someone says, I was battling with depression. This song helped me so much. I was battling with anxiety. This song helped me so much. And that is all I care about. I don't ever sell my music. People ask to use it for whatever. I don't ever tell them they have to pay for shit. That is worth it, 100%. And yes, to answer your question in a long form again, yes, people do get that out of it, and that means the world to me.
Do you think that there's something about your mindset and the process of creating this music that somehow translates into the product itself? And I guess what I'm interested in is how that connection gets formed, that the people would have those experiences with it.
Oh, yeah, I might be more thoughtless when I design. I don't want to give myself too much credit. I think it just happens naturally, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Maybe I design thoughtlessly, maybe selfishly, but those things come through somehow.
Yeah.
With that song in particular, I used to record him, and I sampled some of the things he would say.
If you have a bad thought, look into where it came from and don't be bothered by it and take the thoughts out of it. It's a trick. It means you have to take power in your psyche.
It's a trick. You just flip it, and then you don't understand. Just enjoy. And that's what he said in the song, and maybe those direct messages helped, but I try to infuse that stuff intentionally with a lot of my music, but what people get out of it, it must just happen naturally. I don't want to give myself credit as some like master manipulator of emotions. I think that is just all I am. So what I create must be filled with that.
Yeah, I'm interested in this idea of somehow unintentionally there's some untangible thing that is conveyed through our work.
Yeah. I guess if that's all the ingredients you have, that's all the product's going to have.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what you're cooking with. And you're like, oh, you put a lot of salt in this, huh? It's like, that's all I got. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you think that there are similar processes at play in the work that you do with animation, for instance?
Yeah, definitely. I did focus a lot on music and explaining this, but I meant this a lot with visual too, because it's always paired for me. My dream project in all ends for anything is always to make music and then a visual component with it.
How do you view the relationship between audio and visual? Like you say that you want to create one work that has the music and also a visual component. Do you think that those two are necessarily tied together, or do you perceive them together, or how do they relate to one another?
Yeah, interesting. I don't know if I've really thought that deeply about it. Hopefully this answers it. All I know is that I designed some visuals, it has sound to it. I designed some sound, it has visuals that I'm thinking of. They just maybe always happen in tandem.
Yeah. It's something that I've learned in type design is the idea of a design space.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you design one style of a typeface, the other styles are like theoretically in the universe somewhere, but you just haven't captured them.
It's like when you're designing something, its pairing is always in your mind. Your alpha mega is not the thing you put on the page, but it's what you put on the page in tandem with what you visualized, the context around it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that always happens. If I'm designing music, it's got a space that I'm listening to it. And that's actually, I've got an upcoming album, and that is the whole theory of the album is like all of these songs are a place in nature and a time in nature. All of these are like in the forest as the wind is blowing, as the storm's coming. That's what this song is. So everything I make, its context is not limited to the product itself, but there's a visual component or an audio component that's always paired with it. Whatever I design visually sounds a certain way in my mind.
And it sounds like this pairing is not necessarily something that you have to think about during the creation,
I guess not.
but that it's just kind of there.
Yeah. Through experience or imagination, it's always there. Maybe it's never been separate to me, but you can only work on one at a time sometimes. Yeah.
To go along with that, do you know that the thing that you're creating is about the forest when the storm's coming and like the breeze is blowing, or is that something that emerges as you create it?
It's very easy, you know, the human mind's full of fallacies, and it's very easy to post-rationalize and then remember it as if it always happened that way,
Right.
which I'm sure that does happen sometimes. But I want to say 50%, yes. But 100%, before I start, these sounds were experienced in some way. Maybe it is just 100%. There's a narrative that fully forms at the end, and the narrative isn't always fully there in the beginning. But when it regards to sound, yes, especially because all my percussion has a memory attached to it because I've recorded it all on a hike or here and there. And I usually layer an ungodly amount of percussion. I love that lushness, just like in nature, being in a forest, that lushness is overwhelming and relaxing. And I try to create that in music. Every sound has a memory to it. So every knock of wood, every coin rubbing against itself, everything is a memory. So I listen to a song and I remember I was here. This is what it looks like. This is what the breeze was like when I recorded that. So I guess a lot of it is inevitably tied to a physical experience with a physical place.
I also want to talk about how you apply these ideas of creating music and visuals in the same design space as one another to collaborative projects. We were speaking before the interview about the Wood Swimmer video and how that was a collaboration where you created the music and someone else created the visual through like this long process. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
So I guess first of all, like, how was that created?
This was a collaboration, and not a lot of videos on my site are that sort of collaboration, but he's a genius stop motion animator. His films take 10 years to make. And I joke with him because for me, I can kick out a bunch of animations in a year, you know, not all of them as deep as what he makes, but he's got like 3 films left in his life. I always joke that you got to pick them right. You know, you got to really like think about them because you got like just a few left because it takes so damn long. But Wood Swimmer, he came to me and he's like, I got this footage. I just been recording footage. And if you've seen Wood Swimmer, it's just layers of wood, almost like a MRI scan of layers of an organic body. And you see how the layers and veins of wood warp through like a Z distance through the wood. He set up this stop motion little robotic camera rig where he had a piece of wood facing the camera, lit right, and he had a camera capture frame, shaved off just a super thin layer, captured another frame, robotic mill shaved off another thin layer, captured another frame, and it would just run. I think he just kept the frame clean every time. I think it took like 5 to 10 minutes per frame, something like that. And it took half a year to a year to record everything. And he came to me with all this footage, and he's like, I got all this stuff. I don't know what to do with it. And I was like, this is so fucking cool, dude. This is a lot that I care about. It's so awesome. I'd love to make music for this. I'd love to edit it. And so we worked together, concepting what the piece would feel like and look like. And he shot some more, and I edited things together and then tried to make music that felt hectic and like sawing and like eating through wood. And I really liked the song, how it came out. It was a really good collaboration. And it exploded like everywhere on the internet. Even like GQ wrote about it. It was very cool. That was fun. It was a fun collaboration. I would say I'm not like the best at collaborating. I don't think I really am. The things I care about only exist in my mind, and I don't really care about sharing that. And it's difficult to try to make someone else do that.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible employee for that same reason. It's really hard for me to care about something else someone else thought of unless it like somehow is important to me. So I don't know if I'm that great at collaborating. I'll always try to be. But that was a good collaboration. He's a master, man. He's really good.
What was it like to approach that with the goal of creating music for it? How did you translate that concept?
It is tough for me because I'm only a few times have been commissioned, I guess. And I wasn't getting paid for this, but I guess it's the same idea. It's like, I want music for this thing that was born outside of my mind. And so that always scares me. I feel like I can never really perform well. I feel like I'll fuck it up. So it was challenging. I just tried to think of like what it sounded like to move through wood and if that felt calming or scary. And it was kind of scary. It was like you're ripping apart, going through this like new world, destroying this wood. I tried to capture the sound of sawing and confusion, and I had the song change up a lot. I had a lot of really heavy sawtooth, no pun intended, because that's the waveform of the synth, sawtooth synth, and it's got this really like buzzy, like, sound to it. Add a lot of air to it as well. And I tried to capture that feel of it, and I felt like it came through okay.
I also want to talk a little bit about some of your more purely visual work,
Mm-hmm.
like the Cal Academy of Sciences vortex
Mm-hmm.
they created. What was, I guess, both the motivation behind that and also what was the process like as you were creating it?
So, Cal Academy of Sciences is an awesome project. I love the academy over there. And this came across so serendipitously because I love science education. I love thinking skeptically about the world, not cynically, which people always criticize me for. It's not cynicism, it's skepticism. It's just about questioning information you have and respecting science and respecting education and respecting people with history and knowledge in certain things. And science education matters a lot to me. And I wanted to like change everything just to work for the Academy of Sciences on this project. That's not financially viable for them or me even, but I saw a planetarium show and I thought, this is so cool. This is amazing. I'm going to come up with a pitch for the Academy of Sciences that I want to come up with a purely like scientific inspired artistic experience, a way with connecting people to top level scientific concepts, and mathematics and biology, just like repetition of life on different scales, just opening up people to basic scientific and mathematical concepts, because a lot of my calming thoughts come from nature. So I wanted to make that happen really bad. I was coming up with this pitch. I talked to a friend of mine, and he's like, oh, I know the director of Nightlife and the planetarium shows. He's been coming up with the same idea. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? So like we met and we literally had the exact same idea. It's like, oh, this is perfect. Let's make it happen. So I felt like in rare form, I got a bunch of friends together and tried to make something happen. Was like, all right, get some friends together, be the organizer, produce, and design, and try to make everything mesh together well. And I was temporarily a mature designer at that point and got everybody together to collaborate towards a common goal. And it was very rewarding. And what you see, that Vortex 2.0 show, is a teaser, is a proof of concept that will hopefully turn into a much larger show. I've submitted a budget to the Academy of Sciences, and it's going to be a slow journey, but I want this to be a reoccurring thing where we take information and concepts inspired by their research, inspired by science, things to trigger people's curiosity. Don't make it educational. Don't make it like, did you know, blah, 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 like explain something. Just take a core concept and then turn that into art in a way that maybe they don't even like walk away from that knowing like, oh, now I know more about blank. Just kind of inspired and curious about like these forms and like why this is happening. Somehow inspire curiosity towards science through a purely art and music space.
Yeah, there's something interesting in there about like creating something with the intent of not directly communicating maybe the scientific concepts that you're
Yeah.
trying to convey, but just inspiring a sort of open-ended encounter with the work.
Yeah.
I guess I'm interested in how you think about that. The possibility of creating something and then putting it into the world where people can encounter and experience it and perceive it in different ways.
Because it's really out of your hands.
Yeah.
However people think of it. Happens a lot with all major works of art,
How do you think about that in relationship to your work? I mean, I guess ultimately it's something that you must accept, but
It is, but I do have high hopes that what I intend with it is how it's perceived.
right.
I always have high hopes, especially the more that you pregame and concept. I've got a project I'm working on right now that I'm basically writing a small book on like the mythos of this world I'm building and how it relates to our existence,
Yeah.
death and life and the normal shit that I do. And I'm really hoping that it comes across like that. But Same with Academy of Sciences. I'm not nailing it into the forefront of the imagery, so maybe it'll never come across. But if I ever get the opportunity to explain it, hopefully, I don't always need to, but hopefully that adds a depth to it and a curiosity that drives people towards questioning things that have inspired me towards certain pieces, you know?
Yeah. Maybe somehow these intangible, imperceptible ingredients that you're working with are recognized.
Hopefully. Definitely. Like I said, that's like, I really do want that, you know?
Yeah.
I know it's out of my hands, but I wouldn't be doing it unless I had a mission, unless I had a mission statement for every piece and a way of thinking that I wanted people to share.
Right.
It is about connecting.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me, Conor.
Yeah.
This was great.
Yeah, for sure.
Subscribe to Design Notes so you don't miss our next episode with new media artist Harvey Moon. In the interview, we explore the unique art that can only be created by technology and how it can encode and expose unseen features of the world around us. You can subscribe to Design Notes on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review on iTunes and listen for a shout out in the next episode, or let us know how we're doing with an email to design@google.com. Thanks for listening.